begin? Morning, everyone. Let's stand for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Morning, everyone. Call our meeting to order. We'll first begin with the approval of our minutes for January 28th. Is there a motion?
Motion approved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. 5-0. We'll begin with Commissioners' reports and comments. Vice President Baker.
Yes, I'd just like to thank the Chamber of Commerce for putting on an outstanding event this morning out at Fountainhead. I think it was very well attended. I thought the questions were really good, and I thought the commissioners conducted themselves in a very professional manner, as did everyone, and just like to thank them for putting that on. The second thing I'd like to comment on is the project up at Fort Ritchie. I know we've entered into a contract on Fort Ritchie, and with many of the discussions in closed session and the changes that are to the contract that are somewhat being agreed upon, for me, I think it would be extremely important if we're going to be offering some upgrades to the infrastructure, roads, sewer lines, et cetera. I think what we should do is go ahead and come up with what we think we might be willing to accommodate on that facility up there, and I think it should go back out for bid. I think the direction we're taking is really not the direction that I want to take. I think we're potentially positioning the taxpayers to take on millions of dollars of infrastructure work up there, and I just don't think that's right. If we're going to be providing that service, we should have put it back out for bid and tell everybody out there what we're willing to do, and give others that have probably shown an interest in that property at a much higher amount, and give them the opportunity to reconsider their thoughts. That's my thought, and I just think we're heading down a path of disaster up there.
Thank you for your comment.
Yep.
Wayne, anything else?
Yeah, I have several things here. Actually, one, wasn't expecting that, but I do agree with Commissioner Baker that our conversations related to the sale of Fort Ritchie, if we continue down with this offer that's changed, should be done in open session, because this is drastically different than the offer that was presented to the public, for the public to bid and make a submission to purchase the property. So I do think this should be an open session, and I would agree with that. The comments that I had, I wanted to talk about. One of my goals that I would like us to maybe focus on for the year ahead is our meetings with our boards and commissions. That's something that we instituted maybe 2 years ago. We were meeting with different boards on a regular basis, and we have more than 30 boards now. We've added a few in the last year. And so I think it would be good if we met with our boards. They're our citizen advisory boards. They provide advice to us, but we don't meet with them on a regular basis like we should. And there's a lot of important issues that are discussed from time to time. So I think it would be helpful. It doesn't have to be a luncheon. It could be a meeting set up just like this when we meet with the Board of Education later this afternoon. But just to get their input on a more regular basis, I think would be very positive. Also, on Saturday, I had an opportunity to tour Rose Hill Manor, a historic home in Williamsport owned by Mrs. Hershey and the Hershey family. My first time touring the property. I've been by there many times and almost broke my neck looking back the lane at the beautiful home. But this was my first time to look through the property, and that property, the integrity of it is being threatened with nearby development. And it's a historic property. It's on land with battlefields, battles that were very important part of history in the Civil War. And I would just like to see that home and that property continue to be preserved in the neighboring areas, because we talk about bringing tourism to Washington County, and that's a great asset that we have to attract that tourism. Also, last Wednesday, I was able to travel to Annapolis and take part in Washington County Day put on by the Chamber of Commerce and the Community Lobbying Coalition. I was in several meetings, as many of you were as well, but one meeting I wanted to highlight was a meeting with Delegate Darrell Barnes, chair of the Legislative Black Caucus, with Alicia Parson McBee and Skip Davis from the Dolman Black Heritage Museum, Delegate Quarterman and Councilwoman Keller to talk about the future of the Dolman and how there may be support from the state. And we had a very positive meeting and conversation, and I'm hopeful that that there will be progress at the state level. Also, circling back to closed session, another focus I would like to have going forward. I think in this recent term, we've had, in my opinion, maybe too many attorneys take part in our closed session discussions and not enough finance staff. I think it would be very helpful if our CFO or someone designated from finance were to attend from time to time. A lot of the decisions we make deal with large sums of money, and who best to have in that room than our finance staff, who knows the numbers in and out better than any other employee or commissioner. So I would just like to see maybe fewer attorneys and more finance staff presence. So those are my comments for today.
Commissioner Wagner?
Oh, good morning. Yeah, I agree with Commissioner Baker. That was a nice function this morning, and I think we did get to address some concerns and answer some questions. As far as the contract, what we have with Fort Ritchie, I find it interesting that this thing's been going on for years and years and years, and we finally have a contract, and it seems like it was screwed up for years and years and years in my book. Yeah, I'm throwing stones a little bit. We have a contract. Obviously, it's an ongoing discussion about some things. Here's my position on it. In 1 minute, Commissioner Baker just said, too many attorneys and wants a CFO staff in the room.
I said that.
Yeah, well, Commissioner Kiefer, I'm sorry. I'm not going to make closed session decisions without attorneys. And the next step is I'm not going to do, it was mentioned that, I trust staff. I really do. I trust staff in Fort Ritchie. When staff tells me it's going to be X amount of dollars and staff tells me it's going to be this way or that way, whatever way it does take a deal, this is a pretty normal real estate deal. This is the way it works. You got a feasibility study, you find things you want done, you come up with money to get it done, you decide whether you're going to do it or not. And there's no way I know what, so I got to depend on staff. So if we don't trust staff to give us the right direction on a Fort Ritchie contract, for example, how can we trust staff to give us the right direction in closed session? So I think we got to trust staff the whole way across the board. So as far as Fort Ritchie go, I'm willing to, I've been in a lot of real estate deals that were more money than what we're getting for Fort Ritchie. Maybe I'll make a mistake, but I don't think so. I think I'm ready. I'm moving forward with what the decision was.
Randy, all I was saying was that we put it out for contract. We had a time limit. We've given extensions to the time limits. We have listened
Way it
to
works.
and we have listened to their concerns.
That's the way it works.
And you have given in to their concerns.
Way it works.
And my position is it's going to cost the taxpayers way more money.
And we've
sir.
had I
I'm
got to
talking-
correct
I
that. We've
have the floor.
negotiated concerns.
Excuse me, I have the floor.
Yeah,
You'll get your chance. You'll get your chance.
I apologize.
But
for
it's
not
going
giving
to,
in.
you know as well as I do, we got a letter and we made a decision in 30 minutes. I am not going to
We've
sit
already
there.
got one commissioner saying we're spending hours in closed session, and many of them are with Fort Ritchie discussions.
Well, I
What is
just
it?
think-
Terry, here's
Are you
the-
trying to
It's gonna cost
sabotage the
taxpayers
project like you did the
millions of
last
dollars,
one?
Randy.
Here's the bottom line. How did we come to those? We hit, you know how many people was in that meeting? 10 staff. If I can't trust 10 staff.
How many other people that have been interested in that property,
You think these problems are going to go away with somebody else?
but we never offered what we're offering to
think they're
this
gonna
group,
go
we've never
away?
offered to anybody else.
Property was put out for sale as is. That's
You
no
don't
longer
understand the term
situation.
as is,
Yeah,
Wayne.
you're-
As is, you still
And
have
the
to
concern
disclose
is
the
the future
issues.
ongoing cost to the
Y'all,
citizens.
you
That's
got to
the
still
concern.
disclose the issues as is. You think anybody's going to step into that without us addressing them?
It was advertised that way. That's the reason for a
There's-
study period.
right?
So they
For
could
the bank
understand what
to
those
make a
concerns were,
decision to
not so
loan
we
the
could bend
money.
on everything.
Well, if we can't discuss much, it was in closed session, obviously,
right.
but I can tell you right now, I'm with it because you guys are just not being realistic about it. We had a $6 million contract. Someone screwed it up. One of the delegates even mentioned that in the newspaper. I wasn't involved in that. I can think of a million ways we might have saved
What was
that.
screwed up, Commissioner Wagner? What was screwed up?
We didn't give an extension.
We didn't give an extension. The deal never came to fruition.
But there was no,
That's
there
not
was
our
no
fault that the
competing
money wasn't
offer that
available, that
stopped
they
us
didn't
from
get the
giving
money.
an extension. We had a $6 million deal. We lost. 3 people wouldn't give a consensus to move on. 6 million. Now we're arguing over 1.7.
No, Commissioner Klein, that's not true. That
that's-
deal did not fall through
Hey,
because there wasn't a
It's
consensus.
what
I
Mark
believe
Twain
all
said.
5
First
commissioners
get the
were in
facts, then
agreement with that.
distort them as you please.
No, you're distorting the facts. All 5 commissioners were in agreement to the $6 million sale.
Well, here's
Money
in my
didn't come
book,
through.
here's the
That's not
bottom
our
line.
fault. That's
Hey,
not
this
our
might be a
fault.
good conversation for an agenda item, but I don't agree with your facts.
It's
and
too late. The vote's
presentation.
done. This
You're
thing's moving
obviously
forward.
trying to sabotage and derail this
Not
for
trying to derail
another
anything.
private bidder to buy it at auction and spending
We're looking after the
privately.
taxpayers'
I'm
fund.
trying to
Looks like
keep the
you're-
taxpayers from taking on a nightmare.
I
What
think-
other local
I think the
government, and maybe there
taxpayers
are
should know
local
the
governments
motives
out there that
behind
have
your
to pay for
comments.
closed Army
They're
base, but
taking
what other
on
local
a
government
nightmare.
has that
All right,
kind of
can we
responsibility
move
with
us
closed
on
federal
to the
property?
next? Would you finish your commissioner comments? Great discussion. I appreciate
I'm
the
done.
different opposing views.
So I waited for my comment to speak, so.
Thank you very much.
Because I think it is important. One thing that I do want to make sure that we have to go back to the original thing of Fort Ritchie. It is not, we're not trying to make a sale on the profit of Fort Ritchie. We're trying to have this as an economic development. And that's what we have to be looking at, is this is supposed to be an economic development. I'm not trying to make money off the sale of it. I want to have this growth for Cascade area. I want to have the growth for the Fort Ritchie area, the growth for the Smithsburg area and Washington County, to increase the taxable base. That's what I'm looking at. That being said, I'm done with that. I do want to go on to a couple things. I was down in Annapolis just like I am every Wednesday for Mako. But also we had this, the Washington County Day down there, which is always a great event. I had a one-on-one meeting, or not a one-on-one, a small group meeting with Senator Peters, which was exciting. We talked about the UIP project and make sure we get the funding for that. As everybody knows, it is in the budget, but just to make sure that they don't pull away from there. And we talked about the emergency services, the Medicaid bill, and we're looking like we're getting support for that. Don't know exactly what that's going to end up, but that's looking good. Commissioner Kiefer, I agree with you. If we have something dealing with finance or staff, I have no problem with CFO being there, and I don't think anybody has a problem if we need to ask Sarah or whoever from the staff. Definitely, I agree with that. We're there. One thing I do have to apologize for is when I spoke last week about the trailer park making 2 weeks, I did not look at my calendar. I'm not going to be here next Tuesday. I'm going to be out of town next Tuesday. If it's all right with the commissioners to postpone that agenda item to the following week, because I won't be here. If you guys do want to move ahead with that, I'm all right with that. But I think this is an important enough issue that we should have all 5 commissioners. But I apologize.
Are you guys in agreement to wait for him to be here on the 21st? Is that or 11th, 18th?
I have no choice.
I don't think there's a meeting on the 18th, so it'll be the 25th.
Could we notify the people who were present that day, again, because I think in our open session that we said
Yeah, there
2
was
weeks
some
time
correspondence.
frame.
I 100%
So if we could
agree.
let them know of that timeline.
Yes, I 100% want that, and that's why I wanted to do this commissioner comment, so it became part of public record. I apologize, but I do think it's important enough.
So we'll send letters out to those who spoke?
100%.
Okay.
So you're not going to be here, did you say the 18th?
Next week.
The 11th. Anything else?
So we'll have it, what date, Kurt?
25th.
Commissioner, anything else? Court, anything else? In regards to CFO, I've already spoken to Sarah and Kirk about having her in the room for any financial discussions, personnel issues and things like that, probably involve her financially. But I think we're all in agreement of her being in.
I appreciate that, but there's times we make
Yeah,
exceptions to
and
salaries
I think
for
Kirk,
certain
or
employees.
Sarah's
so it'd be
already
nice
said
to
make
have her
herself
present.
available. We can always pause for a moment for her to come to her office or from her office to our meetings. But no, to have the financial stuff in front of us, the base decisions is important. I also wanted to thank our lobbying coalition and everyone involved with the Washington County Days in Annapolis. I did have a few brief moments to speak to Secretary Schultz and Budget Secretary Brinkley about Washington County. I heard former Senator, Deputy Aide to Governor Hogan, Chris Shank was in the town, but I didn't get a chance to see him this year for the first time in many. But overall, a very good event for all to experience, including our new young leaders who are getting to feel of Annapolis, who are part of the Leadership Washington County class. Next, I want to congratulate and heartfelt thank the Funkstown Volunteer Fire Department for once again having an awards banquet to be there and participate and observe many sacrifices and things they do. It was a very festive event, and wish to thank them for their service. With that being said, that concludes my report. Next would like to be reports from county staff. County staff, please come forward, name and state your matter.
My name is Joshua Neal, Director of the IS Department. I have an agreement between the county and Antietam Cable for supplying internet connection via fiber optic line. It's a 2-year contract at a cost of $1,032.95 per month. It was recommended to me that you be the signer on this.
Commissioners, comments, thoughts?
We're not currently paying Antietam Cable. We have our primary internet connection provided by the state of Maryland, which is less than this, but we are giving them a consideration in the terms of space for their equipment. So we get that connection at a bit of a discount. This is comparable if you take that into account.
And the speed's going to increase because you said we're doing the fiber optic.
It's the same speed as the state connection, but we can now aggregate the two together. And in the event one or the other service goes out, we have a higher speed available across the county. So it adds redundancy and speed.
So this internet isn't part of the gigabit city that we hear about being the super fast internet?
We can scale it up to gigabit speeds at additional cost, but we don't have a need for that speed currently.
Would you repeat the cost again?
$1,032.95 per month, and it's a 2-year lease.
This is something that should be brought up on the budget since it's so close.
I'm okay.
This is budgeted as part of your department
I
budget?
believe it is, yeah. This was on the pile of things handed over to me, and it's said and done. The line's actually already been installed, and I believe it's part of the budget.
Commissioners' thought?
Pay the bill.
Is that a motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor, or discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Any further comments from staff? Please come forward, introduce yourself in the matter.
Good morning, Susan Buchanan, Director, Office of Grant Management. I'm here for informational purposes only for an update related to the National Park headquarters, National Park Service headquarters in Williamsport. My office is currently working with MEDCO, that's Maryland Economic Development Corporation, on a grant application submission that would be for submitted to the Strategic Demolition Fund, which is a state-funded program for the cost of some of the demolition that's going to be occurring on the property that is currently owned by the county that was funded by a grant by that same program in, I believe, September 2019. The grant funds will assist MEDCO with the cost, lowering the cost of the development for the reconstruction of that property that would be then leased. At this point in time, the application hasn't been released yet, but we anticipate the application would be released in April, May. And I'll be coming forward again to get formal approval to do so along with MEDCO, but I just wanted to make the board aware that we're ongoing with conversations and working towards that application completion. Any questions?
Thank you.
Any other staff report? Please come forward, introduce yourself in the matter.
morning, Commissioners. Danielle Weaver, Public Relations and Marketing Director. I just wanted to inform you that on Friday we released our first quarterly newsletter for the county. Since releasing that, we've already had over 20 new subscribers. So it's really exciting, and we just want to help keep pushing the word out to subscribe to our news for county government. And then also welcome everyone tonight to the public viewing of the State of the County at Kepler Theater at 5:30.
Since you brought that up, I just want to thank you again for the video. I think maybe 3 years ago is when we started to do that video in-house rather than have that done by an outside firm. So our employees put that together. That was quite impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah, all staff provided input to that, and Danielle, Brittany, and Katie certainly did a great job putting that together.
Yes, we couldn't have done it without all of county staff contributing to the content.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
Any other staff? One more thing, I thought Leslie might be in the audience. I did attend the Groundhog Day event Friday down at the Ag Center. It was well attended, and it did represent a lot of our local food vendors. So kudos to Leslie for listening. Any other reports from county staff? Seeing none, we'll go to citizens' participation. Folks in the front row. Just as a polite reminder, I'm not going to cut you off at 3 exactly, but
I only have a page.
well, that's
going to
good.
be short.
Now, again, I
My name's
thank you
Roger
for
Vincent,
understanding and allowing me to say
16845
that.
Longfellow Court. I would like to, hopefully one last time, say thank you for all the time you guys have given to this, to get rid of this tax. We hope that this I'll escalate it to super unfair tax, because it is. And we would like you to put it to 0, because we own a trailer, and we're being taxed because we own a trailer. Not because we're a renter of land, but because we are taxed because we own a trailer. The people that are in apartments get taxed as property. We get taxed as property, and then we get this extra tax. So please take the tax off. Now, if you really got to have the tax, we would like to ask that you separate the tax from the rent. Make the mobile home park put on the bill rent, tax, okay? Separate line items. The reason for that is to be very transparent so that we will know that there's a tax there. That's how we found out in the first place, because Lakeside was doing it wrong. So we found out that there was a tax. So if you put the tax back in there, then unscrupulous whatever people can go add on and add on and add on, because they can raise rent anytime they want. And they could add the tax. They could double taxes, triple taxes again, but it wouldn't be a tax. It would tax to you, and then they put it in the pocket. So keep it separate. Keep it separate. It is very important that you do that we all know what that is. Okay? That's what I got to say.
Normally we don't ask questions, but I do have a question.
Sure.
Now, you referenced trailer tax, property tax. Do you know does Lakeside pay a tax on your specific lot, or do they pay a tax on all of the land?
They pay a tax on the whole land, and then they apportion it out to each one of us.
Okay.
They're adding an extra tax to you, is what you're saying. Is there any tax included in your rent? Like if Mr. Baker had a rental, he'd include tax on the rent.
Yes, there is.
So they're including a tax on your rent, and then a separate tax with the 15%. Is that?
Yes.
Gentlemen,
you don't know.
I hate to interrupt him, but we've been here several weeks, and if you had to answer that question, sir,
No, I'm being-
okay, someone hasn't been paying attention. We've discussed it so many times.
I wouldn't say I've been paying attention, just for clarity for people who may be watching it here, but thank you for the reminder on that.
Sometimes I ask a question just to make sure I do understand.
Thank you.
Yeah, don't take offense though that we ask those questions. We're trying to be engaged with you, so thank you. All right, sir,
Okay.
would you
Well,
name and
first-
address again? I think she already has it.
Okay. The
Thank
first
you.
thing I want to do is thank all of you gentlemen. Okay? I found out yesterday from a response from Mr. Downey that there's going to be additional improvements done to Stotler Road, including sidewalks. And I announced that on our websites, and everybody was pleased with that. So I just want to say thank you for that. Okay, but I do want to discuss this tax again. You know, we've been here just about 6 months. During that time, you have collected $300,000 from 937 tenants in Washington County. Okay, but last week I shared with you the research on the comparison of taxes paid by apartment residents compared with taxes paid to our residents. The research indicates that we're paying almost twice the taxes that the nicest apartment complex residents do, while paying 5 times the amount of taxes that are being paid by comparable apartment complex residents, and have been for years. Again, this is not 1963. We're not transients. We're tenants of long-established communities. We live, work, play in the county, and pay our taxes. We have no more access to any additional benefits or programs offered by the county to all tenants in the county. However, we are being assessed a punitive, burdensome tax. The residents of apartment complexes have no vested interest in their property. They don't have upkeep, lawn care, and multiple other responsibilities. They don't have mortgages, haven't paid a 6% tax to purchase the resident, haven't paid a $200 fee to register the resident, and most importantly, they're not being subjected to this additional tax. While you're practicing discrimination in housing, you are not discriminating for the usual reasons. Nonetheless, you are discriminating. You're discriminating because of an individual's basic right, the right to make a choice of the type of housing they choose and where they live by applying this burdensome tax. We are tenants, and any tax applied to a property owner is an expense that helps to determine if their rent is to increase, and it does. Please repeal the automobile trailer tax, camp tax, and reject the mobile home park tax as Anne Arundel, Howard County, and Baltimore counties have. We anxiously await your decision, and thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Is there any other citizens who'd like to come forward and participate? So, state your name and the matter. Any other citizens? All right, we'll move forward to the contract renewal, landfill inspection services. We have Mr. Curry. Please introduce yourselves and the matter.
Morning, Commissioners. Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Dave Mason with Solid Waste.
Subject 4 years contract renewal, PUR 1403, landfill inspection service, which is a requirements contract. Motion to renew the contract with BAI Group LLC for 1 year commencing March 13th, 2020, at the same terms and conditions with the exception of a 3% increase for the construction and inspection engineering services based on a letter that BAI Group LLC submitted on January 9th, 2020. You can see the awarded rates that the board awarded last year and proposed rates that the vendor is requesting. Also, we mentioned that the proposed rates are less than the next bidder who also submitted proposals for this service of work. And the work entails landfill construction, capping, leachate collection systems, sediment basins, pump stations, whatnot. It's a 1 year contract with 4 additional 1 year periods for renewal. Funds are in various accounts, and we have concurrence from the Division Director of Environmental Management. Any questions?
Commissioners, thoughts, comments? Motion to approve, authorize by resolution.
Second.
First and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? There you go. Thank you. Next up, intergovernmental cooperative purchase, office supplies, desk delivery. Rick Curry, please introduce the matter and those with you.
Again, Rick Curry, Director of Purchasing.
Karen Begner, Purchasing.
The subject is intergovernmental cooperative purchase, INTG 20-028, office supplies, desktop delivery for all county departments. Moved to authorize a resolution, the utilization of intergovernmental cooperative purchase, office supply, related products and services with AMIA Partners, National IPA, Region 4 Education Service Centers having its principal place of business in Houston, Texas. Contract number R190301 that was awarded April 23rd, 2019 to Epic Business Essentials of Rosemount, Illinois, and to extend the existing contract with Epic Business Essentials through May 21st, 2024. Code of Public Laws allow this board to enter into that contract that was awarded and leveraged by other jurisdictions. The cost savings for this contract is significant. I won't read all the items that is listed here in the ARF, but basically the spend for this last year alone was $161,111. If the county would have been buying these items on open market, it would have been double that price that we're paying through this contract. And funds are available in the various departments. Are there any questions?
Commissioners?
Make the motion as recommended.
First,
Second.
second, any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, budget adjustment. Scott, would you introduce the matter? And I believe Sarah has gone home ill, is that correct? Like that?
Yes, she's unavailable today. She assisted in preparing the agenda request form, and this is for a budget adjustment for the election board. So Scott Hobbs, Director of Engineering. I'm here to request and recommend that the board approve a budget transfer to the election board facility. Renovations for the election board were previously included in Project BLD 092. A request is being made to transfer funds into the election board facility project BLD 102 due to realized savings, so future phases of work can be scheduled and completed prior to the original timeline. Certain costs for renovations to the election board office were included in the 3335 West Washington Street building renovation project. Now that the election board facility has been created, the project BLD 102, a request to move the funds into that project and also into systemic improvements, a building project for $300,000 is also being requested. The adjustment will cover additional renovations and some other costs related to furniture and equipment related to the election board future phasing. The additional renovations requested include preparing the new building for the office, the warehouse, and election judges training center so all operations can be housed in one facility at this current time. The initial phase of work currently involved limited renovations for functionality and the creation of the early voting center by April 2020 for the early voting center. This transfer would expedite the remaining renovations requested by the election board, and all of these adjustments are being made through project savings. We've continued to work with county staff. The budget was originally 3335 West Washington Street, was divided into 3 separate projects. It was for the court renovations, for the district court, the Register of Wills, and the election board. As we've moved forward and received additional bids and continued with our staff efforts, building out the election board and also building out the Register of Wills and district courthouse room, we've realized savings. So we're coming here to request if some of those funds can be transferred over to both of those accounts. So with that, if there's any questions.
Where did you say the funds were coming from?
There's an original account was set up for BLD 092, which was called 3335 West Washington Street. The original plan was to move the Board of Elections to the second floor at 3335 West, so we had plans to renovate the second floor to be able to move the Register of Wills to the first floor. As we continued through this process and realized the space was available here at 100 West for the Register of Wills, we changed plans, but we kept in the budget and costs associated into that budget. So now we're trying to be more clear. And as we move forward with staff efforts and some of the bids we received were lower than estimated, Now we'd like to realize that savings and move it forward into the election board's budget so that those future phases that we've talked about in the next year or 2 years or 3 years can be done now as we're moving forward with that project.
Scott, is it a project savings or just a project that we've moved on to another project now? Since the Board of Elections didn't go to the second floor. It was money that was never spent, right?
It was money that was never spent in addition to the other 2 projects into that
did take
budget.
place, okay.
We're saving, so it's a combination of the 2.
Moving the money now and allowing the build-out to occur in the most efficient manner ultimately results in the county saving money at the end of the whole process.
Motion to approve the budget transfer.
Second.
I have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Are you all expecting any other folks today for Leitersburg? Anybody else coming to witness or? No. Okay. All right, so you're okay, we're like 10 minutes early is what I'm getting at.
Oh, okay. No,
Right.
we're okay if you are.
Thank you. All right, building excise tax waiver request from Leitersburg Rotary Club. Please introduce yourself in the matter. Thank you.
I'm George Souders, president of Leitersburg Rotary Club.
I'm Scott Horning, treasurer, Leitersburg Rotary Club.
I'm Bruce Barr, I'm presently serving on the construction committee.
Please begin.
Okay, we're here today to ask the county commissioners to consider waiving our excess tax on the new construction, which is about 12,000 square feet. And this is a community center building for the benefit of the community and the county as well. And so it could also serve as a recreation center, physical education, if you will. And we would like to have that tax waived if it's possible.
That building, so is that open, would that be open for someone to rent it, or
Yes, sir.
what's the capacity?
I'll leave my treasurer take care of this.
So the building will have it's a full-size gymnasium with a seating capacity of about 200. It also has 2 meeting rooms, a 900 square foot meeting room and a 600 square foot meeting room, and a warming kitchen.
So a basketball league of youth could come there and say, we want that on Friday, the 25th, and
That's correct. One of our primary purposes of adding the gymnasium was to serve the youth in that area. There's a severe shortage of gym space in that part of the county. I also serve as president of Smithsburg Youth Athletics, and I have about 300 kids playing basketball, and we do volleyball and wrestling, and we're sending
I didn't hear track.
indoor track, exactly. We're sending kids all over the county trying to find gym space, and we're actually having to turn teams away because we just don't have the adequate
you
facilities.
might not know this right off the top, but what would it cost me to rent that building? You have a fee set up yet?
We actually do have a business plan. What we're looking at right now is about $30 an hour for the gymnasium, with probably like a 2-hour minimum. So if you wanted to have a birthday party or an event, that would be possibilities. Leagues, if they enter into a long-term contract with us, that's what we're kind of looking for. They would rent it on a regular
Sounds like a
basis.
place the county could put a rec program in. What do you think?
That's exactly what we're thinking. We've also talked to the community aging.
On the Commission on Aging, they're interested in additional space for their activities. Also spoke the other day with your election board for Washington County. And right now they do the election, the voting at the Leitersburg Grange Hall. And they wouldn't mind necessarily maybe find something a little bit better than that at this point in time. So we'll have that available for them.
And how much money are you guys putting into the building out of this project?
So the construction cost for the entire project is $1.5 million. The Roritan have currently raised through cash donations and fundraisers and in-kind donations about half of that.
It's outstanding.
So we're close to breaking ground. We're just a little bit short between what we're comfortable mortgaging and what we've raised. So we're trying to close that last final, gap in funding, and this would go a long ways towards helping us with that, with that gap.
I'm in favor of the request personally. I would like to see, rather than just simply waiving it, I think it would be in keeping with what we've done in past projects to take it from our commissioner's contingency fund. I did some research and we did something similar for Brooks House at a cost of about $39,000. So you wouldn't have to pay the $11,900. We would pay that, but just for consistency with how we've done this in the past, I think that would be appropriate. Leitersburg is an unincorporated community, and there's, you have a community though nonetheless, so you don't have a municipality to rely on, you have the county. And I think this would be a great project for that area, so.
Yeah, I think earlier today, Sarah, who's not here, would have probably recommended if we approved this, this was to be our contingency fund. At Brooks House, I think we waive water and sewer hookups for that project.
They
Commissioners?
weren't waived, we paid for them out of contingency.
Yeah, we paid for them, correct, that's right, because that's an enterprise fund, we have to reimburse that.
Yeah, I think Sarah came to me a little while ago and told me if we did something, recommend a contingency fund. That's where I need a chief financial officer. But with that being said, I do like the idea it's available to community. You sort of set a precedence when you start doing this, but it is what it is. You're available. I really like the idea of opening up more space for the community. That I could come and have a birthday party for my granddaughter, or they could have a basketball game. And it seems reasonable, $120 for $30 for like 3 hours or 4 hours. Yeah, so.
And I would like to, once the project's finished, if we had a commissioner meeting in your space, we do that at the Morgansville Roots and Club, Morgansville not being incorporated, but gives that part of the county some representation. So
We can make that happen, sure.
I know you can.
They're going to be book solids. What's going to happen?
Well,
Do you need a second gym while you're here?
we wanted to build a building that would get used every day, and we're hoping it will. That was the goal. We didn't want to build a building that would get used occasionally. We wanted it to be a real part of the community and really make a contribution. So.
If I'm correct, Sarah said we had 74,000 remaining. So commissioners, I would entertain a motion to waive and pay this out of our.
Not waive.
Well, I'm saying I'm entertaining.
I'd like to make the motion that we,
Out of the
I'd like to make the motion to pay the $11,900 out of the contingency fund.
Have a first, is there a second?
Second.
Comments? I do want to thank you for understanding, coming back, and this is an important issue to gather attention of everyone. So with that being said, there's a first, go ahead, there's room for discussion right now.
Mr. Horning, I know you all probably wanted to know why I'd mentioned the word track when he was naming all the other sports that he's involved with. He's probably older than I am, but his days go back. I remember him as a track coach at Clear Spring High School, and he had an awesome program at Clear Spring. Little old Clear Spring, under his direction, won the county championship at least one year that I know of. So he's always engaged in youth and had a love for sports, and I want to thank you for bringing this project forward. Thank you. All of you.
I just want to make one additional comment. I think this is an amazing use of funds because it's an opportunity for the county, not just Ledyard, but the county to utilize it. I know, my son plays in your football program, and the program out there is amazing, and he's already signed up for the track program here starting in March. And I know the community needs space. The Washington County Special Olympics basketball team called me a couple months ago trying to find additional space for a gym so they can practice basketball. Luckily, the county, we were able to find them another practice space for this season, but this is something that, a lot of community partners would be willing to accept, so thank you. And for the hard work of raising a lot of money.
Commissioners, with no more discussion, may I call for a vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, 5-0. Thank you very much.
We thank you all very
Let
much.
us know when the groundbreaking is. We'll be there.
This is a big step forward, and we'll let you guys come to the groundbreaking. We'd love to have you there.
How are you funding? How you funding? I just curious now.
I'm sorry?
How are you getting your money for it? I mean, are you fundraising or?
It's a combination of some savings from the Leysburg Haunted House from years past, and
gotcha.
Peach Festivals. That was a big start for us. We've been writing grants. We've gotten several grants. The Gaming Commission helped us out last year, and just a lot of little fundraisers. And yeah, it's been a combination. Some in-kind donations. A lot of the plumbing and electrical were donated to us. That was a big help for us. And,
All right, thank you.
yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
You're welcome. That being said, the next item is I need a motion to go into closed session.
Make the motion to go to closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
I will be present in closed session, but I'm going in the closed session in protest under the perennial solar agenda item. So I will be there, but
Would you rather us just remove that from the closed session discussion today and you could participate in all closed session?
I'll be there for all of it. I'm going to be present for all of it.
Then let's just remove the
That should
item that you don't want, and then you
that
can
should be an open session item.
All right, commissioners, would you want to consider that item to remove?
I'd want to know if it's an open or closed session item. I guess I got to lean on the attorneys. Is it open or closed under our guidelines?
That's a good point, too.
It's discussing specific litigation, which is an express exception to the Open Meetings Act. If you want to discuss the matter of PSC approvals of projects generally, that would certainly be an open session conversation.
Well, I was just looking at the report in brief, and when you read the last sentence, the board, if it intends, to me, that could very easily be discussed in open session. And I have no problem going back to open session and doing it today.
Commissioners, we're in discussion. Any thoughts?
Into open session? We have a deadline here.
What's the deadline, to be exact? I see it.
21st.
Well, one of the things about bringing back an open session today, and we don't have one on our agenda to return to open session for that.
In case
discussion.
citizens wanted to comment.
Yeah, so I would agree to bring it back to open session at another time as a compromise.
If that gives us enough time.
Yeah,
decide
right, and then would you agree to
participate.
consent to closed session then if that's done that way with what Kirk just explained?
That's the only reason I protested.
That's a good conversation. All right, we can't do it today, open session, but I'm glad to bring that back at you. So what I'd like to do then is call for a motion to go into closed session.
You already have motions.
Second,
Do we need to amend it with that item removed?
with that, per that discussion, that item removed? Or are we going to discuss it as listed as Kirk just described? Terry, what's your
You
thought?
can decide that. I was paying attention to the last sentence.
So he gave an
My involvement,
explanation.
It's pretty easy for me.
We're deciding if whether or not we want to participate in an open meeting. I think that deserves an open
Yeah,
session.
that part in general, as he described, the specific language, what Kirk described a few minutes ago, he has a legal opinion that it's okay for the purpose he stated.
I 100% agree. I think the vote needs to be done in open session on how it's done. If we're looking at the procedures of what the procedures are in the in-depth of litigation, is that if that's what you're talking about as litigation, I think it might contend to be both. But I don't think should be a vote or a consensus done in closed session.
Terry, your thoughts?
I'm fine discussing it in open session. It
And-
actually gives us a time.
And then in closed session per his ruling.
I have no problem. I'm okay with court's recommendation as long as I get to make my decision in open session.
Okay.
And I have no problem discussing everything in open session.
And
Nothing to hide.
then you're okay with today's discussion in closed session?
Yeah, I mean,
Verified the way he
you may
just
as well have the discussion in or in open session at this point. The confidentiality provision has already been vitiated, and obviously this is going to be a political discussion, so you may as well do it. in
Okay,
open session.
we'll remove it from today's closed session. It'll be an open session. Is that okay, gentlemen? Then I need a motion, first and a second to go in closed session. That item is removed. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.